Really? The impression that the public gets is that the opposition has been totally left. And here is the information minister telling us that the opposition was invited to a meeting. They made some suggestions, all of which the government took on board. All. Everything. And that the prime minister forwards to her WhatsApp messages from Mark Golding. Then Mark, if you can WhatsApp Andrew, and I expect that to happen, I expect that the leader of opposition would have the prime minister's number, that them can WhatsApp. My God. No, sir. This is very interesting, you know. And I tell you the truth, it is an amazing revelation coming out of the Senate from the Minister of Information. I had no idea that the Prime Minister and Mr. Golding was having this type of relationship. And Mr. Golding is giving the impression that, anyway, listen.
Because he's talking to the PM and sometimes there are questions that I have to answer.
He is talking to the PM. He is talking to the Prime Minister, the opposition leader that has called a press conference tomorrow to outline their dissatisfaction with the hurricane relief, is talking to the Prime Minister by text message, WhatsApp. And the Prime Minister forwards the messages to the Minister of Information because there are things that she would need to clarify.
They're constantly in dialogue.
You hear that? They are constantly in dialogue. Mark Golding and the Prime Minister are constantly in dialogue. And me say so is the Minister of Information said that the leader of the People's National Party and the Prime Minister are constantly discussing issues related to the hurricane relief recovery. So anything that Mark Golding wants to hear about it, he can just text Andrew and he would have get the answer because the Prime Minister forward the text to Dana. And the PNP is going into a press conference tomorrow. Called press conference. Why? Why? Why is the PNP having a press conference? It's a pity, you see, that I don't have the support to protest against that press conference. It is a most divisive move. Now, the PNP can have their arguments, their questions. But if you have access to the Prime Minister, to the point where you are texting him constantly, why you call it a press conference? Because all the press conference is going to do is to further divide the flipping country at a time when we ought to be united. It is going to be seen as a political press conference. It is being called by the PNP. And the PNP, they have outlined why they're going there. It is to criticize the relief and recovery. And they have parliament. And he has access to the Prime Minister.
And so this notion that there's no communication is not really so. It's not.
This notion that there is no communication is not so. It's not true. It's a lie. It is a lie. Stay with me and give me a minute or so. Let me see if I can find something for you and come right back. Let me just dust off something and play for you.
Also note that when we went through with the CARICOM leaders last week, and we took them to, on Monday, thank you, when we went through the various areas that were affected, the only place that the motorcade came out of to survey damage was by Good Hope. And that was led by the Member of Parliament, Dayton Campbell. That was the only place that we stopped. That was the only place that we stopped. And so we don't have to make it seem that we're not working together. We are working together.
You hear that? Do not make it seem that we are not working together. We are working together. Mark Golding said they have been left out. You know, this needs to be examined, you know. I don't want to get too worked up about it, but it needs to be examined. The government is saying they are working with the opposition. They have placed the evidence on the table. And the PNP is saying, nah, we have been left out. Who do you believe? Who do you believe? Do you believe the opposition or do you believe the government?
All right, the next question was about stronger building standards, and
we can leave that there. So the PNP's decision to hold a press conference tomorrow amidst the government's effort to address the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa raises questions about the timing and motivations behind this move. As the nation grapples with the devastating impact of the hurricane, the call for unity and collaboration has never been more urgent. In the face of a disaster, unity is not merely a virtue, it is a necessity. One cocoa, full basket. Individual efforts, though valuable, are amplified when collective action is taken. The PNP's stated objective of unity is laudable, but their actions seem belie this commitment. It's not genuine. The PNP does not want unity. They are only chatting. It's pure chat. You know, Aristotle a Greek philosopher once said that the whole is more than the sum of its part. The whole is more than the sum of its parts. And if we can't see that the collective effort of Jamaicans is necessary, then I don't know what and where we're going to get there. And so as the PNP prepares for its press conference tomorrow, they must reflect on the implications of their actions. And I'd like to ask them, is the press conference a genuine attempt to contribute to the recovery efforts? The only press conference that should be called is a genuine attempt to contribute to the recovery efforts. If that is not what you're calling the press conference for, call it off. Or is it a political maneuver to score points? Is this about politics, comrades? Because make no doubt about it, the PNP, PNP has a legitimate right to raise concerns and questions about the government's response. That's not the point. But Parliament is the appropriate forum for this discussion. So by choosing a press conference, the PNP is circumventing the democratic process and potentially creating division, and that is the issue. John? Are you still there, John? No. He's gone. I have a couple more issues that I want to go through. My God, it's 8 o'clock.
But if they all of them friend them, the World Bank, they will tell them the 41% of GDP.
No, Mr. Hyman is saying that the government have friends at the World Bank. And he says that the Minister of Finance is hapless. My God. Huh. Hapless?
But most of the truth with the numbers man on the line right now, Ralston, I'm on morning.
Oh, Connie, what's up?
But there this morning, we there look and see, and I look for the thing them where I going, what is missing, what is not happening. I hear some.
All right, so I see that, John, I see that. Coming to you here. Give me a few minutes.
People saying that we're going after the finance minister. We're out to get the finance minister. Are you out to get the finance minister, Raleigh?
Well, the finance minister, the hapless. I mean, I put the word hapless.
You hear that? You hear that? The finance minister is hapless. Why?
Finance minister trying to get me. So what them do now, them send out a thing, say, we say the World Bank say Jamaica's debt to GDP.
No, listeners. This is a very technical discussion. It's not easy to understand, but you can learn. There is a difference between your debt and your debt to GDP. And I'm going to play the tape, and then I'm going to try and see if I can help you to understand the argument. Okay? Don't make nobody fool you. All right.
He is now 115%. She put out that yesterday, and then she tried to get the World Bank to collaborate with her.
No. She tried to get the World Bank to collaborate with her. Now, I don't know how the Minister of Finance could get the World Bank to collaborate with her. What is Mr. Hyman saying? You want to tell me that the finance minister can get the World Bank to put out what she wants them to put out? What? Is Jamaica's debt to GDP 62.4% or is it 115%? Anti-Fable? What is the debt to GDP? It's really wrong. What is our debt to GDP? Is it 62.4% or is it 115%? And the Minister of Finance put out something and is getting the World Bank to agree with what she put out? My God. I can't believe my eyes. This is incredulous. Is it, Marty?
Oh gosh, I can't believe me high. Boy, I tell you something. This is all very exciting.
No. As I said to you, listeners, this is quite technical. But if you bear with me, you could learn a little bit more. Listen on.
So I know a lot more about World Bank than you, Minister.
So Ralston knows a lot more about the World Bank than the minister. But Mr. Hyman is saying that the minister is trying to get the World Bank to agree with her, but him know more about the World Bank than the minister. So is he saying that the World Bank tell him that? What a hubristic man. He know more about the World Bank than the minister. Well, I I
Yeah.
don't know.
The World Bank will collaborate with her. But I tell her, I know a lot more.
She are trying to get the World Bank to collaborate with her. Is that true? That our Minister of Finance put out something and I try get the World Bank fee collaborate. And he know more about the World Bank than the minister.
World Bank are you, Minister? So here right now, the World Bank said 41% of the GDP was wiped out by the hurricane. See me?
Yes.
So the Minister's information, GDP was projected at 3.2 trillion last year. So if you wipe out 41% of that, that is 1.3 trillion, which is consistent with all of the estimates that everybody I get. So it means that GDP is now down to 1.9 trillion.
All right. So do not confuse GDP with debt, listeners. It is true that the debt is high. The debt is high. The debt to GDP is significantly reduced. What that means is that the country's economy would have expanded compared to its debt. In other words, the country now have greater asset, more value. The capacity of the country to pay its debt has improved, not the debt. So the debt, the amount of money that Jamaica owes is still very high. But our ability to pay it is significantly reduced since 2016. I want you to understand the difference here. So the value of the economy is what has grown, not the reduction in the debt necessarily. Because debt to GDP is not really the amount of debt you owe, you know. It's the asset you have. So for example, you go to the bank to borrow money, but you have assets that can cover your debt. So what the lenders are looking at is the value of your economy. Let me give you an example. Let me see if I can get this up. The United States have a debt to GDP of 122.5%. Singapore have a debt to GDP of 168%. Japan have a debt to GDP of 255%. But which country is more wealthier than the United States? Which country? Anyway, I'm gonna get back to this tomorrow morning because my time is very much going, and I need to
Night, neighbor.
good night. Give me a minute there, Harry. Please give me a minute.
Yeah, man.
Harry?
Yes, neighbor.
Well, Harry, there is so much to cover tonight. Let's start with he's gone, my God. Yeah, Harry?
Yes, neighbor, hear me?
Yes, Harry. The minister is hapless, Harry.
Well, neighbor, the finance minister is perfectly fine, neighbor. Perfectly fine. There's no reason to feel sorry for the finance minister and its ministry. They're doing a great job. So, if anybody is helpless, would be the individual who coined or chose the word to describe the ministry and the minister, neighbor.
Well, let me ask you this too, Harry. Is the minister wouldn't it be good if the minister
If the minister
comes out and address some of these concerns?
It's about time, neighbor. In all honesty, it is about time for that to happen. Because I think it's being pushed too far about the narrative, and it's about time that it be delivered. Because the opposition and individuals, neighbor.
Oh no, you sound far away.
Hold on. Hear me?
Better, yeah?
Okay. I was saying the the opposition and its individuals and supporters, neighbor, are really and truly getting out of hand right now. And what makes it worse is that there are a bunch of mythomaniacs right now, neighbor, because it's beyond being pathologically mendacious. It's a strategy. They're enforcing it, and they're not just enforcing, but they're doubling down. And the administration has to push back. The administration can't wait on the PM to do it. I think every and any ministry that is targeted, they should push back. And some receipts needs to be shown. I think it's about time now. The best way to push back is to show the receipts. We have the information. We have where we're seeing the meetings and everything, information being put out to the opposition as well, because they do have access to it. Give the receipts. Pull a Daryl Vaz. And I bet you people will start to see the opposition for who they are. I know we've been seeing it, but you know when some people are living in delusion, so you put out the facts and let the people decide.
So you are saying, Harry, that we have had a disaster. It is going to affect the country's economy. 3 weeks in, something should be coming out of the finance minister from the minister of finance. I think that's appropriate.
Definitely, neighbor, because you can't let something like this slide, especially when you have a nation that doesn't necessarily discuss money that well and fiscal and monetary policies that easily, neighbor. And the average man does not understand that fully, and as such, anything that is not well explained and put down to that level, then it's easy for propaganda and lies to be told, because not many persons will go and dig deep for the truth. All right, no, not many persons will go to the extent like you and I would do, and a lot of our followers and listeners. All right, so that is about time now where they make it public, because this is being done in open, neighbor. It's not a hidden secret and all of that. It is being thrown. And neighbor, I believe that if you're backed in a corner at some point in time, you have to counterpunch, you know. You have to get off of the ropes. For persons who understand boxing terms, you have to. And it's about time now. I don't think they can take much more of this without hitting back.
Okay. Would you help me to understand this, Harry? The country's economy obviously has suffered a blow. And Mr. Hyman and other members of the PNP are suggesting that our debt to GDP is now 115%, not 62.4% as the minister is suggesting. What are the facts?
I think Mr. Hyman was drinking before he went on and made that talk in a neighbor. because for somebody who is proclaimed to be highly intellectual and educated, he seems to be getting the numbers wrong, right? It is quite simple. Our debt to GDP ratio, I'm breaking it down for people, all right? It really is a ratio that compares a country's total government debt to its gross domestic product.
The value
right?
of the economy. The value of the
The
economy.
value, right? And in this case, from 2016 to now, we've seen where Jamaica increased its value and its ability to now handle its debts.
No,
right?
no, Harry.
No.
I want you to make the listeners understand how important it is to grow your GDP. In other words, to increase the value of your economy.
Quite simply, in a neighbor, right? It is showing our financial health, how good you are at being able to repay your debt, as well as attract investors, locally, regionally, and internationally, right? You are a lot more healthier. You're a lot more valuable. You can actually now command on a larger scale more goods and services. You can also improve significantly the people within. Now, one of the major things is that your economic output would have also been higher. And to put it this way for persons, you have somebody earning 200,000 a month, right? Owes a debt of, let's say, 50% of that, which is 100,000. And that person now got a bump up in pay, right? The output now is the same debt, same 100,000. But what happened is that that person now have more room to either
Are in a better position to pay their debt.
right, as well as they're now able to improve their life. Whether that may be even take on additional debt because they have no more money, and that additional debt means they can actually improve it because they're more valuable. They have more power.
Yeah. So
Because of that.
what Jamaica has done, Harry, is not really to reduce its debt. What it has done is to improve the economy to give it a better ability to pay its debt. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So there is no issue about the debt. It is your ability to pay.
Right.
And that is why, for example, we are able to negotiate better loans. That is why we are able to get greater finances. That matter, I think people need to understand the difference between debt to GDP and the actual debt, because the impression has been given that the debt has not been reduced. But as I point out to the listeners, Harry, the wealthiest countries in the world, Japan and the United States, have very high debt to GDP. They have a lot of money.
Right. And the thing with it is that when you are able to actually have a better debt to GDP, it means you have more money, neighbor. You are actually in a significantly better and advantageous position than you were before. So you're not necessarily worrying about clearing your debt. And that is a beauty, because this is one thing people need to understand. It would be good to have no debt. But we all know you have to also be able to leverage. And that is where debt comes into play, because we don't have to necessarily rush to remove the debt. We can actually take the additional funding, because we're in a healthier position, to build elsewhere within the country. So it's not that you don't want to clear the debt, right? For those who want to understand better. But you have now better spending power. You are able to do more and to make yourself better while still paying down the debt. Because you can now go ahead, you can withstand the longer time frame. So if you have a debt, let's say you have 15 years to pay down the debt, and you do have the money to pay down the debt. But if you do pay down that debt, you're now debt free, but also you may not necessarily be in a healthier position because now you have to then go and try rebuild up to the money that you paid off the debt. So it is something that works in our favor, and people need to understand that and not necessarily get it skewed.
No, so what really is the argument that we are hearing? That the debt to GDP has jumped over the last couple of days from just over 60% to over 100%. Is that the case?
Right. So, and it's going to be in terms of short term as well, neighbor. I wanted to find the exact one because I know a lot of figures around. So let me find that quickly.
All right. So we are actually trying to decipher this statement that is out there.
What do you call it?
Mr. Ralston Hyman is suggesting that somehow the minister is colluding with the World Bank, to put out certain figures here in Jamaica. We want to understand what the truth is here. I tell you. Yeah. Okay. All right. So Harry's trying to get the figures for us. It's very, very important and interesting. I think I'm going to use my program tomorrow morning.
What are the PNP's antics?
Joshua, we are in very, very serious problems down here in Jamaica. You can't help us, man.
All right, I'll write a check tomorrow morning, so.
Well, it's not the check we need. The government is saying they need help with clearing up misinformation in the society. A very, very serious problem, Joshua. What's happening, Joshua? I see the PNP is tomorrow morning going to up the ante with a press conference. Good idea?
It's a lousy idea. It's good for them, but not for the country.
Tell us why.
Because they get to set a narrative that you have a few ignorant persons, but I want to say a few. The ignorant and the direct supporters of the PNP will buy into, thus making the PNP as if they are not only the victims, but the champions of the poor. So they will look like the victim in all of this, in the midst of the relief effort, and simultaneously looking like that they are the champions of the poor. And so that is very good for them, but it's bad for the country.
Now, I don't know if you heard when I played the piece of tape from the minister in the Senate on Friday. The minister is suggesting, Joshua, that the PNP is very much included in all that is happening, and that the opposition leader texts, WhatsApp the Prime Minister consistently. Why does the PNP not go to Parliament, for example, tomorrow to raise whatever concerns they have? Why a press conference?
I think, well, what the minister said, and it's important that we get the context correct, and let me tell you why. Because if it is received incorrectly, it could seem to support what the PNP is saying. The minister said that they speak regularly and the opposition is updated continually on what is happening. The reason I did not opt for the opposition texting and leave it at that, because if that is the case, the opposition can then claim that, hey, we have been reaching out and we have been getting no response. And Jamaicans, we love lie more than truth. Now, you raise a very critical point. If there are concerns, wait until tomorrow and then raise those concerns in Parliament. And if the country is to be updated, leave the reigning party, which formed the government, to do the announcement. So from any angle by which you take it, the opposition is wrong in what they are doing.
Yes. No. No. Do you think Joshua, that the press conference, as the opposition is suggesting, is to raise their concerns, to update the nation? Do you think that this is the motive really, or do you think it is a little bit of politicking?
It's not a little bit of politics. Let me tell you why. I'm going to take you to 4 consecutive press conferences that were held, and what also happened on election night and what is expected to happen next year. Right? On the night of the election, when the opposition leader conceded, 2 things happened. One, to this point, he has not congratulated the Prime Minister on his win. He never congratulated the Prime Minister at all, and to this point, he never did. That's very significant for us to know. And then on the same night, one of the reporters that was present said that the opposition leader, no, not the opposition leader, that the General Secretary of the People's National Party stated that their election campaign begins right away. That's very significant because, as you're aware, that last year, what the opposition leader said is that the parish council election last year should have been a referendum against the government, right? And so what they're seeking to do, they're looking to the general election, which is slated another 5 years from now, but they want to use the parish council election, which is due next year, to create that platform. Because if they can get the majority of the councillors in the respective parish councils, then what it means is that they get to set the narrative overall, not just in terms of speech, but in the parish councils, and then by extension within the community. Because if they don't perform in the community, as is normally the case with the opposition leader, then you get to point a finger on the government and say, see, the government is not doing anything because people are ignorant of the roles and responsibility of the parish councillors, unfortunately. So that is what he's trying to do, to set the narrative from now, and so that going into next year's election, which is due, and I hope it's not held because Jamaica cannot afford it right now, right? That going into next year, he will get the seats and thus set up himself for the coming general election thereafter.
One of the listeners is saying that you should provide evidence to prove what you just said about what is that? Did you see that? Can you provide evidence of what you just said?
The person has to be more specific than that.
Okay, all right. Joshua, the Prime Minister went to the G20 summit. There are some criticisms that he ought to have remained in Jamaica. Do you share those criticisms?
All right, let us look at the quarters where the criticisms came from. It certainly did not come from an objective Jamaican population. It came from both the PNP and their surrogates. So it's not some quarters, it's one quarter, which is the PNP corner, right? Now, having said that, I was listening to Karen Cross today, an excerpt about what Jamaica Politics Uncovered as, which is known as the War Room. She had Karen Cross and Michelle Stern with her, and they hit the nail on the head. One of the things that they said is that the G20 summit is usually held by European nations. Africa does not really have a seat per se. I did not check to see if that's true, but it's usually by the European nation. No Caribbean nation sits on it. But the Prime Minister himself was invited, That's very significant. And not only was he invited by Africa, who was there, but also the United States wanted him to be there. And I think it's very important that that he went. And let me tell you why it was important that he went. One, the international community rallied immediately to our assistance. They came by our side immediately, right? And that is very critical for us to note. Having come to our side and show their and express their solidarity and demonstrated it to us. It's also important that if you're invited to sit at a table, you know, as a sense of, as a demonstration of gratitude that you turn up. But not only do you turn up as a demonstration of gratitude, but also you get also to give a clearer picture, not just to the Caribbean persons who came to look at what is happening on the ground, not just to the other donors that came to be on the ground, but also to that summit and the nations present, to give them a clearer understanding as to the magnitude of the and the scope of the problem that we have and what has been some of the triggers. We note that the Prime Minister, ever since he became PM, from as early as 2019, has been talking about climate change, so much so that he and the Prime Minister, the former Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, was placed on a committee to look at climate changes and its effects. And so, what better place to go and to articulate even greater, to say, hey, this is what I was talking about. You have seen firsthand what it has done to my nation. You also promised, because the EU had promised some years ago that the smaller states that have to deal with climate changes and its impact, they would give financial aid to them. The EU never honored its word. The Prime Minister turning up can re-emphasize now to say, hey, whether directly or indirectly, re-emphasize to say, hey, this is what we have been talking about for the longest while. And now more than ever, there's a greater need, not only for you to do something externally, but we in Jamaica also need your help now more than ever. And we need it in form of any form of donation that you can give.
All right. Hold on there a little for me, Joshua. Let me see if I can clear something up with that. Harry?
Yes, Neighbour, before we continue, John, you are indeed correct. It's the first African nation to ever be the host of the G20 summit. As it relates to Hugh Blair in the comment section, Jamaica, while we're not a G20 member nation, there was a special invitation to Jamaica and several other developing nations. So there, you have your answer. As we were saying, Neighbour.
Yes. I want to get back to the whole matter of the debt to GDP. Let me back up a little. I am asking you again, for those who are joining late, whether or not the finance ministry should be coming out to bring some clarity to this matter to the Jamaican public. You are saying yes.
Have to, Neighbour. Have to, especially when your progress as a nation is also being called into question, Neighbour, right, by the opposition who didn't do a good job at all, by no imagination. You have to come out and defend that progress, Neighbour, right? And I want to also clarify, all right, the same publication. New World Bank data indicates that Jamaica's debt to GDP ratio could, not is, now where it is now, it could rise to about 115%, which means it can also be less. And it may or may not get to 115%. And these are things, they see simple words. A word like could and about, Neighbour, changes an entire thing. So when people are saying
you are confirming that the World Bank did say that the debt could.
That is correct, Neighbour. Not is.
Is.
That's correct.
Oh,
But if I may comment, Mr. Enriquez, good evening, sir.
Evening, Joshua.
Not bad, not bad. Neighbor, two things I want to comment on quickly. The PNP and their surrogates have started the narrative, dishonestly so and sinfully so, that the Prime Minister was not invited. A simple Google search can solve that problem. You know, and when the PNP is talking, the PNP must always remember that the days of misinformation without the benefit of clarity no longer exist. And people like me will not roll over and play dead. As long as I have breath, I will continue to fight against those lies. Right? That is one. And then two, the other thing that I want to comment on is that you have from the family when the hurricane hit, I personally came up.
You're gone again, Joshua. You're low.
All right. So give me about 3 minutes and let me just step in the house. Then that should solve that problem.
All right, great. So Harry,
Yes, neighbor.
why the back roads tonight are not good at all? All right, no.
Hold on. Hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
The implications, Harry, for this debt movement, which the World Bank is saying could go to 113 or 15%. We're not there now. What is our debt to GDP as we speak? What is it?
So the current is still within that 62% that was quoted just before the election. So I haven't had an official update to it, whether that is by our Ministry of Finance or World Bank.
So it remains at 100 and at 62 point something percent.
Right. So we haven't slipped and slide all the way to 100 and not as informally being recorded or stated. And the debt currently still stands at 2.2 trillion. All right, because I'm also going through overall, so we can get the fullness of it and let people know.
All right then. So so I think the conclusion to this, therefore, Harry, is that we should get more clarity from finance in terms of, you know, this, because I don't think the comrades are going to stop pushing this narrative.
They won't, neighbor, right? Because any miscalculation and misrecollection of information will do them a world of good. Because even with the RJR article, right, they are painting it in a sense where they're also saying the debt, as I said, standing at 2.2 trillion. They paint it in a way where they came with the 2007 data, right? Because we know our debt then didn't look too well. So they put it together and package it to let it say, well, 2007 we were at 2.2 trillion. Now we're going back at 2.2 trillion. Without the context that we provided earlier, neighbor, right? That is our debt to GDP is significantly better than 2007. So they're holding it and packaging it.
I'm hearing Harry, that regardless of how we spin this, well, do you agree that the debt will go up? You agree with that?
Right, in the short term, definitely. Because now we have to move things around. It's not that we're going to miss any payment in a neighbor, right? Because what has been happening is that because of how aggressive in the last several years we have been with the debts, been paying it down aggressively, what we're going to see is a little relaxing of the payment, not as aggressive as before. We'll still be on track, but won't be missing any payment. right? Unless the Minister of Finance is coming up with something else. As it stands, we will not miss a payment, but we may not be as aggressive as we were in the last 5 years. That is not to say we're in an unhealthy position. What it means is, while the debt is important to be paid, we have to now pivot a little to put funding in certain areas to hurry up and catapult and find catalyst in developing back those entities that would have been destroyed. So pretty much we're moving resources.
Even if the debt moves to 115%, as Hyman and the comrades are suggesting, you are saying that's not a crisis for Jamaica initially.
Definitely not, Neighbour. Definitely not. All right. And the thing with it is that what people are forgetting, what they're trying to remove out of the space, is to show how other sectors are bouncing back. In fact, tourism, we welcomed about 8 cruise ships since Melissa, and that is posted. Hubler and anybody want to fact check it, go and go listen to the minister. And we're expecting another 8 by the end of the year. Right? So while things may have slowed down, the resilience and showing in other sectors that we're bouncing back. And it is not where our economy will stay static. We won't be stationary. And that's what they want to quote these numbers at Neighbour, as if we won't still be having an output. Fine, let's say it goes to 115. Our economy doesn't stay the same way.
Yes, but hold on, Hart. When the government came into power in 2016, what was the debt to GDP?
The debt to GDP in 2016, let me tell you, $122.66%.
In 2016 was 122.6.
Right.
And the government has brought it down to what? To 62?
62.4, I believe, yes. Give or take in terms of the point whatever. Mm-hmm.
So even if the government, by virtue of the hurricane, brings the debt up to 115%, which is possible. Am I not correct that this is a possible trajectory that we may not be able to avoid?
That is correct, yes.
Because we need money for the recovery. Isn't that why the Prime Minister's visit to the G20 is even more significant, Harry? Because the greater aid we can get, the less we will have to borrow.
Definitely, but the less debt we will take on as well.
The less debt,
And that in itself will also help us to recover even faster. So even not just reducing the debt, well, not taking on any additional debt. What that does is, once you reduce the time to recovery, that is key. So these aid and these assistance that we will be getting and have gotten so far is helping us to reduce the time we spend being down. Because the report is 41% that we lost.
Listen to it. Do we have that? Do we have that? Okay. I don't think we do. Let's see if we have. No, we don't have that. Yeah, yes, Harry. Is it this why the Prime Minister's visit to the G20 becomes even more significant? Because clearly we need upwards of $4 billion United States dollar, and we only have 1.3 now, of which 500 million is borrowed money. That is adding to the debt, and therefore, if the Prime Minister can get additional financial support or grants, it puts the government in a position where they don't have to borrow as much. Correct?
That is correct, Neighbour.
Uh-huh. Well,
And then one of the things as well in a neighbor, they don't want to speak on that aspect because it is not favorable to them neighbor. Because remember, you know, every time they went to the IMF, they had two major things. One, they had high interest rate, and two, they could not state what they want to govern, meaning IMF had strings attached to it, which means policies had to be in place. That is not so this time. So they will always put that spin because there was always heavy conditions and consequences when the opposition went to IMF, as opposed to now.
let me ask you a question, Harry. Is the opposition pushing the government into debt to benefit politically by asking for these huge sums? I recall in 2016, when the debt was 122.6%, that the claim at the time was that the country is on life support with such a high debt. And you know, Harry, there is a bit of sadness in all of this, you know, because quite frankly, we were beginning to make significant economic progress, and now we are looking at taking on quite a significant amount of additional debt. The point, Harry, is that the government in the last election campaigned largely on its performance of the economy. And you know how the politics work in Jamaica, that by the time the next election comes around, we could be looking at a higher debt to GDP ratio. Do you think that the PNP is pushing the government to borrow money or to spend more so that the country can fall into greater debt, so that the party opposite can say, well, we're indebted because of whatever the reason?
Definitely, neighbor, and I did allude to it over a week and a half ago. So that is a strategy that they want to employ, because whether they want to come out and say it or not, right? You can imply something. You can set a trajectory, and we know what you're looking to achieve without you obviously stating it. Because here's the funny thing, neighbor. In 2015, right, the same debt ratio was 124.74%, and 2016 was less. So each year after that, the ratio came down. So in order, you know, for you to have a comparative number to when they were in power, you have to find plans and strategies to increase it. One of those things is asking for 50 million, which for everybody here, 63 constituencies equates to roughly 3.15 billion Jamaican dollars. Now, if we take that out of the cap bond, neighbor, it means we have 3.15 less billion Jamaican dollars to spend for recovery. Because one, it won't be as targeted. The moment you give each member $50 million, you don't have that full targeted effect, right? When it comes on to building back infrastructure, key infrastructures as well. Because one, we know for true money will go missing. We'll probably have bogus invoices, and it's going to prolong for probably a decade or more. So we don't want that. What we want to see is that same sum of money being put in an area that can properly build back infrastructure, give back the economy a boost, as opposed to just spreading it out thin. This is not something where we divide and conquer. This is where we have to be surgical in how we recover. So just like how they're saying, 5,000 homes. Go ahead, neighbor.
Yeah. Today, Harry, the Bank of Jamaica held its policy rates at 5.75%. And they're suggesting that the country inflation is projected to return to normal by 2027, which is 2 years' time. Is the BOJ being overly optimistic here, Harry? That's question number one. Question number two, that the all right. I want you to talk to me about the increased remittance that are flowing to the country, the impact of that, and also the amount of money that the Bank of Jamaica now have to be putting into the financial market to hold the dollar. So I don't know which one you want to take first. Let's go to the policy rate. 5.75% per annum. Because there is pressure mounting in terms of inflation. How is the BOJ able to do that?
Well, Neighbour, they would have gone ahead, right, and look at specifically the level of liquidity, as they stated that they were ready for. Remember that publication before?
Yes.
Right? So they were confident in that based on how it was built up over several years, almost a decade worth of work being put in. So they have all the right to be optimistic, Neighbour. They also do have more information that they're putting out. One of the major things to note, and this is just me adding information based on what I know, is when the Fed was refusing to reduce their rate, which is the US, the BOJ preempted them and actually reduced our policy rate. So we were actually almost ahead of US every single step since the COVID period when we were bringing it down, because what they look at is go around and have an idea as to all sectors globally that impacts us, especially where we do our trade with, what is happening. For example, what is happening with Europe and any the war between Ukraine and Russia and whatever. They would have taken all of that into consideration, placed a dollar figure on it, see what is the risk associated with our relationship with those countries, and then assessed properly to then make a decision. Now, I suspect going into the next, so that is the last policy reading for the year. I want everybody to be clear on that. And I expect them to hold firm for at least 2 more quarters for next year. And that is because of the groundwork they've done globally, as well as how well they have built up the financial sector. And I know, with speaking from several financial institutions, that they are well ahead in terms of the ratio that they're being asked to hold for liquidity. So, for example, if a bank is told to hold 15%, most institutions goes ahead and hold 20%, and some even higher based on how well they're doing. So the worst performing institution actually is ahead of what BOJ asks of them. So they know what they're doing, Neighbour. As I said, they have all the data that they're running with. I think the opposition they do have access to it if they want to have access to it. They can just ask BOJ. So they have all the right to be confident and holding. Plus, we've seen in COVID, if we want to use it as a major factor, what would have happened, how well they performed. This is not much different in the sense of COVID when it comes on to halting our economy, but in fact, we're moving still. And what they're seeing is if you can actually cushion, based on your liquidity and the credit and the risk management that has been done, if you can cushion this for another year and a half, you can actually go ahead and see how well it works. Additionally, Neighbour, we don't have to necessarily reduce policy rate because inflation was also coming down. Now we know inflation will shoot up a little for Jamaica, but they anticipate it to be in and around 7 to 8%, which is not far from the 5.65%. So they have all the right to be confident with it, Neighbour.
Yeah. So and the Bank of Jamaica is saying that by 2027 we should return to normal interest rate. But let me ask you now about the amount of money of US dollars that the Bank of Jamaica has to be putting into the market now. Do you think that the remittance coming in is significant enough to balance that out?
No, Neighbour. Definitely not. I know there would have been an increase and will continue to be an increase for, persons sending back money to their families, especially what is happening now. There's a greater demand for it. But while remittances is our number one baby when it comes down to foreign exchange, the fact that agriculture got a hit, which also is a big thing for us, and also tourism, which is number 2 on the list, would have been down. How quickly can those industries bounce back will place a little bit more pressure on remittances to cover. So it's not an easy feat, right? So I do expect to see a little bit more activity from the Bank of Jamaica when it comes on to adding funds to just stabilize not just the dollar, but the economy, and ensure that funds are passed around, liquidity of funds is passing around. Because when you can have that liquidity where the supply meets demand for cash in a responsible way, that helps you reduce how much you need in terms of foreign currency to import some things and offset it. Because as that money go around in the economy, it goes around from the small man going up to different businesses. Once that circulation is not, the supply is there, and the demand does not increase based on the good, then they should be fine. But I don't see where remittances alone, based on the gap between both, where remittances can sufficiently or adequately hold that together.
Fantastic. Even more important, because you know, Harry, that all of this is being technically looked at the finance ministry. They at this time are going to be coming under some amount of pressure in terms of financing this recovery, even as the country is collecting less resources. It is even more important for the finance minister now to come out and clarify some of these things and answer some questions too, Harry.
Definitely, because we as a people, neighbor, will want to know what is the plan going forward. The more we know, especially from a fiscal level, will help us to make our decisions in our personal life. For those who don't know, what you do in your personal life helps to impact that inflation rate. So if we have a greater understanding and knowledge of what the ministry is trying to achieve, or even how they want to go about it, we as an individual neighbor can help them by curtailing and pretty much making sacrifices as we've done before, right? And that will work well. I want to add, in terms of the context to the amount of money that was placed in the economy since Melissa, that would have been $210 million US since the passage of Melissa.
That's from the Bank of Jamaica?
That's from the BOJ, yes.
They have sold that to the market?
Right.
Now today, Harry, the Prime Minister said that Jamaica's recovery is going to be phenomenal. He says that in our history, we'll never have such a phenomenal recovery and rebuilding based on commitments he's getting out of the G20. Phenomenal, Harry, the Prime Minister is saying that the recovery is going to be phenomenal based on his meetings at the G20. Seems like the Prime Minister is coming home with some good news, Harry.
Seems like he's coming home with a crocus bag of good, neighbor. That is something I want him to lead with, to let the people know why he had to visit the G20 summit. Because what it does in a neighbor, it does two critical things. One, it put the naysayers and the propaganda and the fake news saying, oh, he shouldn't have went and this and that. It puts that to bed. The second thing is, it gives us, the people who are patriots, who actually want Jamaica to recover faster than ever, the idea as to what our international relationships have reached. Because this isn't something that just happened last week, last year, or 2 years ago. This has been building. And I want to tie it into something as well, a topic we were speaking on. Those relationships that were built since 2016 was also a preparation for a disaster like this, neighbor.
Yeah.
That is how you also prepare for a disaster.
Listen to the Prime Minister.
I had very, very useful meetings with the IMF, the World Bank, and several world leaders who have all pledged their support. I had an opportunity to meet with President Lula, President Macron of France, the Vice President of Nigeria, Prime Minister of Canada, and many other world leaders and leaders of international institutions that have all pledged to support Jamaica. So I leave this meeting with great confidence that we will be able to stage the most phenomenal reconstruction of our economy. I had
Harry, I leave this meeting with the confidence that we will be able to stage the most phenomenal recovery of our economy. A powerful statement from the Prime Minister.
Definitely, neighbor, definitely. And I want to point in terms of, I think he will, when he addresses the nation, he may go a little further, specifically what he would have spoken to Prime Minister Carney with, that's Canada. They're looking to strengthen not just the Jamaica to Canada partnership in terms of trade, security, and commerce, but it also was to strengthen the partnership through CARICOM.
Yes.
As well. So he didn't just do this for just Jamaica, because if Jamaica recovers, we also have our neighbors to that we trade with. And we also want them to be healthy, inadvertently also helping us when we start to export as well. So he's taking a holistic approach, neighbor. None that we've seen before him. And I love what he's doing. He's not just there to build these relationships because of Melissa, but he's looking to build sustainable and impactful relationships that may even garner us great dividends, if I want to say, even after he's gone.
Yeah, I listen very carefully when the Prime Minister speaks, because he's a man that is not very careless with his words. And when he speaks, you can get from him a lot that is happening in the background. Now, the Prime Minister is saying that he's leaving South Africa, coming back home, and he's saying that we are going to stage the most phenomenal rebuilding of our economy in our history, Harry. The Prime Minister did not cause the hurricane. What we have to support is his effort to rebuild Jamaica. Though this Prime Minister deserves greater support at this time as he carries the burden of this rebuilding, Harry, I suspect that we should really come on and support the efforts of the Prime Minister to put our people's lives back together. What a tremendous burden he has to carry, and he's deserving of much support.
Of course, neighbor, 110% on that, neighbor. I support that. Because this is a man that is not just saying he is a patriot. This is a man who has put country before even party. That's something the opposition has not been able to do, right? In fact, they're doing the opposite. And it's something we have to appreciate. And how I want to see us as people appreciate it, neighbor, is to correct those people that are sending out wrongful information intentionally, for us to also tighten our belts where we can, neighbor, right? And also let him know that you are in support of the ideas. Asking critical questions as to know what the government is looking to do, how they're looking to do it, and see how we as individuals, communities, and towns and so on can contribute to that, neighbor. That is what you want, and that is something he will and would greatly appreciate, because he's just a mere man, you know, and he's doing exceptional with his administration.
Right? Yeah, when we want to, with your support and all the neighbor rights up here, we want to say, because I heard the Prime Minister saying that he needs support in terms of putting out the information and fighting against misinformation. Now, here's the Prime Minister taking a trip to South Africa to represent Jamaica. Yeah, there are 150,000 homes that they lost their roofs. 900,000 people have been affected by the hurricane. And here you have a man that is traveling into South Africa to sit down, to represent Jamaica, to speak with world leaders, him and his team. And he's leaving there, coming back home to say, guys, I can tell you that we are going to be able to stage the most phenomenal recovery of our economy. And the PNP is criticizing him and saying that he should have been here. Should have been here doing what? Handing out flour and rice? Yes?
Well, I can't tell them no Neighbour. There's no care package or anything that's handed out that has not been handed out with or without Andrew Hollis, Neighbour. So what they're saying, that they are weak-minded and looking at a minute aspect of the greater picture, Neighbour. We have to look at it as a whole. And it's sad to say, as much as we're here every night, we are not defending the Prime Minister and his administration, but we're bringing the facts and the truth, which inadvertently for the opposition is saying we are siding with them. But the truth is, they're doing a very good job, right? They're actually setting precedents. Again, they're raising the bar, Neighbour, to ensure that we can not just only recover now, but to ensure it's done sustainable right through.
Yeah. Here's a bit more of the Prime.
The truth is, this was a really great disaster that has affected Jamaica, but we're going to use this as an opportunity for growth inducement, an opportunity to build resilience, and an opportunity to put Jamaica on a firm footing. By the way, I also met with the Jamaican diaspora here, and they had as many questions for me as my Jamaican family back home. So I want to reach out to the Jamaican diaspora and Jamaicans at home. Please give as much as you can to the relief and recovery effort.
Again, the Prime Minister speaking on his visit to the G20 summit held in South Africa. He's on his way back home. We wish the Prime Minister all the very best. Harry, I really think that Jamaica's preparation for this hurricane was as good as anything else. Yes, we have taken a hit in the economy. Things are going to be a little difficult going forward. But Harry, we can be very optimistic based on what we have seen and heard so far. Can we not?
Of course, Neighbour, we can. Right? This is a man who has stuck to his words, and he's also being real, because there's also another statement he made before where he says the commitments that he'll be looking to make, that he ran with for the election 2025, it may put off some of those commitments or achievements. And that is a man, Neighbour, we have to say, is not selling us lies, Neighbour. That is a man who is caring and really want the best of Jamaica. He's not selling us a bag of lies. He's not pulling a 3-card trick. Because
Yes.
The genuineness and the sincerity of a leader to come out and say, hey, these were the plans for this. We've gotten hit by our worst disaster in modern history. I am coming to you to say, while we want to achieve these things, realistically at this juncture, we may not necessarily hit some of these. And Neighbour, that is perfectly fine for well-thinking people.
Yes.
Because we are also realists.
Do you think so though, Harry? Do you think that that is perfectly fine? Because I don't get the sense that Jamaica has the type of maturity. Because when we can be talking about Hollis cause hurricanes, do you think the majority of Jamaica is seized of this moment and will not lay blame to the government for obvious difficulties that we will have to face?
Well, neighbor, the truth is we can't save everybody, in all honesty. There are just some persons who, no matter how much you say it in different languages, in different tone, in probably if we even draw it, they will still refuse to accept what is. Because again, in the words of Scratchy Neighbor, some people are just tribalist and they won't ever change it, even when they know the truth, neighbor. But for those who are inept, willing to listen, willing to learn, willing to understand, more importantly, they're the persons who we know will get it. Because, neighbor, if we dumb it down, even if we don't understand it from a governmental level, right? We can put it from a parenting aspect. You have your son or your daughter, they wanted a specific shoes for back to school. I could say a Clarks, right? And it coming to the time and you realize that the finance is not there and you say, hey, maybe can't get you the Clarks, Maybe can't get you a Reebok. These are the levels you can actually interpret these things and have a great understanding regardless of your intellectual level in a neighbor. But then again, you'll always have persons who refuse, neighbor. Right? Refuse. And those persons don't even bother try to save them. And we know a lot of these people, neighbor. And out of the goodness of our heart, we will try, but you can carry a donkey to water. You can't force him to drink it, neighbor. You just have to look at the greater picture, look at the others that are like-minded, who have the willingness as well. And you give them the truth. You let them know what is the reality. And I think Jamaica will be in a better stance, neighbor.
And on top of that, Harry, listen to this.
I worked in the biggest countries in the world. I worked in the smallest countries in the world. I worked in post-disaster reconstruction in Indonesia, China, the Philippines, Turkey. Guess what? It is world leading that your National Works Agency has framework contracts with all their contractors so that 6 days after landfall, you have 100 contractors all over Jamaica clearing roads. They're all already there. They're stood up. These are contracting arrangements that are very rare, even in what we would think of as, sophisticated places.
There you go, Harry. The PNP will go into a press conference tomorrow. They say they are not happy, but the World Bank is suggesting that the finance minister have influence at the World Bank, that they are their friends.
Well, neighbor, I would be greatly appreciative and extremely happy if we had those links to actually sway the decisions of a world organization in the neighbor.
Yes.
It would show how far Jamaica has come. We probably can get other aids, right? We shouldn't have to worry about the debt then, if we have such big links, as I put it in Jamaican terms.
By the way, we have about the IMF.
Right, second in command, neighbor. So
yeah,
I mean, probably he's alluding to that, but then he would have gotten the institution incorrect. So again, is either probably have put on him glasses and fact check himself. But it's a beautiful thing, neighbor.
Yeah, who will the people of Jamaica believe though? Will they believe the propaganda out of the opposition, or they'll believe people like the World Bank? Don't we need to put more emphasis on the virtues of institutions like the World Bank and their commendation of the island, rather than focus on what the PNP will say? Because obviously tomorrow they will try to go for raw meat.
Well, neighbor, will always come after. And the good thing is that for those people who, again, as I said earlier, who are willing to understand and willing to learn about these institutions and their importance, not just on a governmental level, on a global level, but also how it impacts you as the individual, I think they'll have a greater appreciation in how it works. And another other thing with it, neighbor, is that the lies, the propagandas, the innuendos, they do sprints. What we're facing now does not require sprinting. It requires strategical movements. It requires you pick up the pace when you need to. You see how those 5,000 meter runners run, you have one person will set the pace and another one just stay where they are until the gruesome moment that they need to pass. So what I'm saying is all of this will be short-lived. The lies, all of that. But we're not going to sit on our laurels and let it continue. Because it will run out of gas, neighbor. The opposition cannot. They don't have enough fuel. Will outlive the lies, the propagandas, the innuendo, neighbor. And that's what we're working with each and every day we come here. Not to give them the light of day and to try and be a catalyst to bringing it down faster. Because the longer it stays, the worse it sounds, neighbor, and the more delusional as a nation we're being perceived by the rest of the world. And we don't want that image, neighbor. We can't have big links, as them say, in a high places and we're thinking on this level. No.
Good night, my dear. Listen program, boy, and tell me, say, every day, tell me, say, boy, Prime Minister, boy, he can bear, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, man, he can bear, man, I tell you. But I just, them to just let him do what I'm doing, you know, can have sense and he know what I'm doing, you understand me, I say?
You think him have sense?
We ask some man, then the man, you know, see what man do, man, visit some place, we try to get some link, we can push Jamaica further, because we don't want Jamaica to stop one place.
You don't want Jamaica to stop, eh?
No, a different Jamaica we are seeing, brother. Just people and just to give man.
Hold on, you are seeing a different Jamaica, sir?
A different Jamaica we are seeing, man. I just take a time we have to give him car.
Oh, where in the island? Where in the island are you, sir?
I'm from Clarendon.
You're in Clarendon.
Yeah, man. I shift off me, man.
You what?
Right pan we storm did I come with the enemy of a ship.
Yes.
Right pan we are rocky pine, brother.
Yes, I have. You right about that.
Yes, man, but you know Almighty real, you know. I just you know.
Yes, sir.
What to be have to be. We can't what happened big and we, you know, the Almighty work, you know. So
Yeah. So the PNP, they said they call in press conference tomorrow, sir. Why them a call press conference?
they are right, man. Then just long here for your money. I just have them problem. Me not even,
They long here for the money.
yeah, me not even want to hear about them, you know.
You don't want to hear about them, sir?
No, sir.
Oh, what man?
No, sir, me don't want to hear about them. That be a problem them a cause and a disrespect, man. I don't rate them.
You don't want to hear about Marky G, sir?
No, sir, if you go and up there.
Oh. Where we go?
Go back where you come from, man.
That away.
Me don't know if I England or Wales or where. You know.
Where? Scotland.
Or in the journey with the Scotland Yard police force. Then.
Yes. Oh my goodness, sir. Wow. Is that Scotland, man?
Reality, man. Me no, then go and good, man. Check say if I'm PMP in a power, brother. Boy, me no know what that no.
Lord. Yes, sir. Boy, I tell you, when I get the people, they're gonna get 50 million each.
50 cents each.
No, sir. The 50 million they want, sir. 50 million each.
Then look at it. Me I tell you, say, I'll me see him go on like him in opposition. Him go on like I'm my leader. You know. I just that we show you when did up to if indeed win. I just money. Then nothing about country, you know me that.
Yeah.
Then nothing about Jamaica, you know. I just say money they want to mash up the place again.
Look so.
Yeah, PJ do it already, you know. PJ do it already, you know.
PJ do what, sir?
PJ mash up the country already, man. I run over France, and I remember
No, John, I never know that. No.
Eh? And God go with all the World Cup money. Remember 90 Jamaica enter World Cup. All the money they don't spend, you know, and put a buy all ball, can put a France, right? But that year plot. So if you look,
No go so, sir. No go so.
You not about them.
No go so. The ball there to me.
Man. Wait, man, match up because you man go live in France.
No, sir, that's not true. He's here. He's here, man.
in there now, cause maybe in can, maybe they don't want him over there no more, can't get him yet.
No, sir.
No, so.
No, sir, the PJ is here.
Yeah, they run him back, come to Jamaica, can't get him yet.
A black man time, you know.
Yeah, but in time pass, him a black man, him a wicked.
Oh, no, man, don't say that. No, say that, man.
Neighbor.
Don't say that,
neighbor.
Hey.
That the man generate the country, neighbor. Lucky saying they sell we out, let me tell you.
Sell we out, sir?
Lucky amount of sit when sell mash up Jamaica. Lucky sell. In sell we to like when sell the things them, I tell you.
My God, you think that would have been sold out?
Yeah, cause man, you see, a man sell out the whole like thing them at Jamaica will employ how much people, man, freeze when they mash you up.
Yes, but they say enough man have more car and enough man have more gal. You have more gal?
Me I worry for man, but I know him make me have it because I'm a fish.
No. Well, we don't know that. No, don't know that, sir. No, man, don't say that. No. Don't say that. No, please offer that.
All right, then, but me not rate them. Me not rate them, my boss. Me I tell them, me no want
you have enough girls, sir?
Yeah, we have some gentlemen, you know, say I pay for street and lobster and come, so we have to strong up the girl. We have some.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hold on. What part of Clarina you there?
Down pan the pint, man.
You can't give me look at the count, them and make a strong up too.
Yeah, but it comes to kind of, I believe a lobster going, you know.
But me want strong up too, man. You have to help me out.
Yeah. One idea, man, you know, can take a visit, man. Like when
yes, man. Yes, man. Then if you tell me, say, forward tomorrow, me not on the base, man. Because you have to strong up too, you know.
One idea, man, when time, cause me can say and me know everything. You know, big and
that's
serious.
Right, you know,
can roll in and going to roast come see you and roll over. But I ain't see that, man.
Can I get weak up now, you know?
Yeah, so you never hear about white sand. Seafood.
White sand?
Seafood.
The
same place down there, man. Down a Rocky Pie.
Rocky Pie. All right, man. Respect you here, sir?
Yes, man. Take care.
You know none of the good thing they down there.
We don't mix with that, man. They say after change you know, you them a focus about job now, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Them a focus about job. They're not too angry, you know. They might do something now because they believe in the government, you know.
Yes.
And there are youth and I want to do fool in this and they get beer consequence. So they prefer sweat by sweat of your blood, bread, by sweat of your child, your bread, you know. So the more you work, you better.
Sweat of your brow, you eat bread, sir.
Yes, so I'm not sure say when you work, everyone can say good about you, but when you angry, everybody up my ear, so you them all up there now, you know, all the youth I left the place said we are so you know we never see too much here, so we have to bless up the Prime Minister. Just have some faith. I am a man with fit for the country. I have sense in love people. Understand me, I say?
Yes.
Yeah, so Almighty will bless him, man, who overcome everything that they throw upon him, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, for real.
I want to thank you for calling you here, sir. Big up yourself.
Yes, neighbor. Bless up yourself, my boss.
Yeah, man. Cool.
All right, sir. Like, listen to your program, man. Although me come out, but me still a listen to you, you know?
Yes, man. We're going on till 10. Sitting in limbo as we go 3 minutes to 10 o'clock.
but I know it won't be long. Sitting here in limbo, like a bird without a song. Well, they're putting up resistance, but I know that my faith will lead me on.
Here's how we leave you until tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Take care of yourselves and have a great night, everybody.